All right, welcome to the year-end 2022 housing market recap. So this is the state of Colorado. The data that I pull for you guys for the monthly is always Fort Collins. I just stick in Fort Collins. That's where my house is, that's where my office is, and so I stick there. I look at all the other markets, including statewide data. And so I thought it would be fun just to say, hey, how did Larimer County fare compared to, not the Larimer County Fair, but how did Larimer County fare compared to Fort Collins itself? Larimer County actually got more expensive percentage-wise than did Fort Collins. That's probably, I should go back and look historically and see if this has ever happened before, but Larimer County appreciated at a higher rate than did Fort Collins by itself. So that tells me that areas in the county unincorporated, in Loveland, in Berthoud, in Wellington, that those houses actually got more expensive based on their current price, so they appreciated more than the houses in Fort Collins did, which again, I don't know if that's happened a lot before. But anyway, quick little Larimer County overview, right? Let's look at December last year to December this year. New listings down 8%, sold listings up 22%, and there's our prices. Median price up 15.4%, and average sales price up 13.7%. And so that's how the county did on single family homes. Let's take a look down here at our townhouses and condos. Same story, right? New listings were down, sold listings were down, price was up, price was up. So it's always good just to kind of see more data sets, right? And if they're telling vastly different stories, we should probably check that and say, why is that happening? This is telling the exact same story. So that tells us that we're not in a Fort Collins bubble. We're not even in a Larimer County bubble, because when we look back at the state data, when I go back and look at all of the state and look at the data throughout, it's very similar, telling that same story. And so here we are, 2022 year end. How do we recap our housing market? Well, what's happened this year? And so let's take a look. And so we're going to go back to the middle of the year. This is June 15th. Federal Reserve just hiked interest rates by 0.75%, the first time since, I don't remember the date here. Let's scroll and take a quick look. First since, in 28 years. That's why I don't have a date, so it says years. So why? The article did a good job. It says, what is this going to do? This is the Fed's main tool to battle inflation. So they have a few main goals with respect to the economy. This is their charter, right? It says, hey, Federal Reserve, you exist. The federal government allows you to exist if you do these things. And it's kind of these things right here. It's kind of nice. Promote maximum employment, keep prices stable, and ensure moderate long-term interest rates. I think that when the federal chairman came out later in the year and said things like, hey, we want to reduce employment, that he's probably not keeping with his charter. And when we want to keep prices stable, increasing the price of everything at a dramatic amount like we have this year probably isn't sticking with his charter. So they go on to explain maybe why they did that later. So let's take a quick look. How raising interest rates slows inflation. It goes on to tell us in here that what happens is they make things so expensive that people literally stop buying them. Or they make things so expensive that people don't invest in a new factory or in a new business line or a new printer at the print shop, or a new CFO to come in and make the business leaner. They stop investing in new things, and that's one of the tools they use to make things less expensive later. They literally grind the economy to a halt in some areas. And so they'll go on later here and say, let's see here. Sorry for the lag. You have to kill parts of the economy to slow things down. It's not pleasant treatment. And so as we sit here as buyers or sellers in this market and we go, man, things are really expensive. What's going on? The goal was for there to be pain, right? That was the federal policy goal in 2022, was to cause pain in the marketplace, to hurt businesses, to decrease employment, and to make things more expensive, so that eventually things would become less expensive. So let's take a look at that. How did that fare here? What happened here? And so here in Fort Collins, year to date, December 2021, December 2022, we did have a market slowdown, right? We had 10% fewer houses got listed. We also had 21% fewer houses that got sold. So our market did contract here in Fort Collins. That's the single family. On our multifamily, our townhouses and condos, new listings were down almost 30%, and we closed 35% fewer, right? It was down 35%. And so our market absolutely did get smaller. And what did that do? The goal of that, as was stated in the middle of the year, was to bring prices down. And so then let's take a look. How have we done? Did we achieve our goal? Well, we're up 14%, and we're up 13.7% on single family houses year over year. And then let's look at how do we do in our townhouse? We're up 11%, we're up 7%. And so we've definitely made things more expensive, but we definitely have slowed the market. We've made it smaller, right? Very fewer houses are selling, but the opposite is happening. They're getting more expensive. And so just for fun, when I think about the logic used to make things more expensive, to make them less expensive, this is what our market's experienced. If today you're going to buy we're going to go monthly payment. Today you can afford $3,000 or $2,865 a month for your housing. Well, at 6.75%, the current interest rate, you can buy a house that's $500,000. Let's say last year you also had $3,000 a month that you could spend on a house. At 4% interest rate, you could buy a $675,000 house. And so rather than houses getting less expensive, we see that they got more expensive. We're putting more pressure on the bottom of the market. So the least expensive homes, the one most available to the people with the least income, have the most pressure on them, and they're the ones appreciating the greatest, right? So the change in interest rate didn't decrease our housing prices. The change in interest rate put more pressure on the bottom of the market. It actually made things more expensive and made fewer of them available for all of us to buy. So it's been a very bizarre year in that our goal was to somehow grind the market to a halt, cause some pain, and then somehow from that pain get some good. But when we look at the market data, when we look at what does it actually cost me to buy a house, well, last year I could buy a $500,000 house on my salary or on this income, whatever it is, and this year I could buy a $500,000 house, $175,000 less expensive house. And the $500,000 house is actually 10% more expensive than it was last year. That was a $400,000 house last year, and now it's a $500,000 house because it's still appreciated. And so anyway, this market is tough to navigate, and that's kind of my overview for it. Boy, it's a tough market to navigate, right? There's not a whole lot of like, ooh, look at this. There's a wonderful, easy spot you can just slide in and buy a house. It's difficult to qualify. It's difficult to find the right one because there's so few available. Why are there so few available? Well, that's one of the reasons, right, is that cost to borrow. The other reason is if it's difficult for me to move, I can't sell you my house, so I can't leave. So even if I'm in a house that doesn't fit me anymore, my options to go buy another house and then sell you this one have gone away. The market has shrunk so much that I can't physically leave anymore into another house that suits me. Let's say I'm a retired person. I used to have 5 bedrooms and a lot of kids, and now the grandkids come once a month, and I'd love to scooch down into this 2-bedroom. I can't really afford the 2 bedrooms. They're really expensive. Even though my house is worth more, it's a lot more expensive to buy what I need. And there's so few available, I may not be willing to take that risk. Same way, right? If I'm in the 2-bedroom house and I have 3 kids and I really need another bedroom now, it's difficult to find one. There just aren't many available. Why? Because it's so dang expensive to buy. So anyway, that's kind of the doom and gloom side of what's happened to us. It was our thoughts, right? As a nation, we thought something. We thought, let's increase these interest rates and we're going to help ourselves out after some pain. Here we are at the end of the year going, wow, I don't see the help, but I sure see the pain. For you guys individually, if you're still listening to this and wondering, how does that apply to me? It doesn't. That's the wonderful thing about markets. Markets are markets. There are these things out there that are hundreds and hundreds of data points. That's hundreds and hundreds of people who have all made a decision, and that's what their decision looked like. For you, that's irrelevant. That information actually doesn't matter. If you need a place to live, if you're looking for a house for you, well, this is the market you're in. These are the houses that are available. This is what it costs to buy them. It's time for you to make your best decision in that, right? So how much can I afford? What can I get? Is that a value proposition I'm willing to entertain? Let me go get one. So as people, we can't time markets. Investors can time markets. If you had maybe 15 houses, and you were contemplating when should I sell them, I can probably pinpoint some decent times to sell those houses. If you're an individual saying, my lease is up here, I have money saved for a purchase, I want to move because of family or comfort or joy or whatever the reason is, I'm ready to move. Well, you do that now, whenever now is, because that's what's best for you. Getting into this market and then experiencing that appreciation, that's what's best for you. Getting out of a rental situation that you move from house to house year over year into a stable house, that's what's best for you. So anyway, long-winded, but the market is the market. The market's over here. It's not real. It's just a report card of what everybody else did. You as a person, you're over here. Let's go make the best decision you can make today, which is most likely what they say about trees. What's the best time to plant a tree? Well, it was 20 years ago. That way you have shade today. What's the second best time? Right now, because this is the time you have. So best time to buy a house would have been 20 years ago, but you weren't ready then. If you're ready now, let's buy the house now. If it's time for you to sell, let's sell. That way somebody else who needs to buy can, and we'll keep this market moving. So anyway, that's my recap of 2022, a little doom and gloom. We tried something. It obviously didn't translate to the successes that they were hoping for in housing. We felt the pain. We didn't see the good. Hopefully that policy changes. Whether it does or doesn't, we don't have any control over it. So as people, let's do what we want to do. If it's time to sell, let's sell. If it's time to buy, let's buy. If it's time to invest, let's invest. If you want some guidance on that, if you want to talk through this more, if you want to dig through the market and decide what's best for you, reach out. We love consulting. We love talking. We love sharing. We love learning from you. And we love sharing our expertise with you. So reach out, plug into us. We're happy to help. I hope you enjoyed 2020 year in review.